Bridget.
John.
How you doing?
Doing well.
Cheers me.
I love you.
I love you too. I mean,
Take two.
I had one job. Welcome to Board Game Cantina.
Coming to you from our dining room / YouTube studio.
This used to be our dining room. Now it's our Star Wars room. I can't wait for everybody to come over for Thanksgiving.
They're going to love it. They're going to love it.
Yeah.
And it's a great opportunity for us to tell all the stories that are behind us.
Yep. Get on board, family and friends. We're sort of into the Star Wars thing. And not that that's news for anybody who knows us, but I am so excited to have the opportunity to just get into it a little bit and be able to share with, all the people in our lives, the things that are important to us.
Yes.
So you are here watching a video podcast called Board Game Cantina, and you may notice a distinct lack of board games and cocktails, which you may have been promised on the way in here. There's a reason for that. So maybe we should explain what that is. Let's acknowledge the bantha in the room.
Let's.
Last year, we had an amazing experience at an event called Washington State SummerCon, which is here in the area, has been growing, has an amazing lineup of guests each time, and really gives you the chance to mix and mingle with Star Wars and other pop culture personalities in a pretty intimate environment. One of the great memories at Washington State SummerCon that was kind of an event that got us sort of hooked on this idea of meeting and interacting with some of the Star Wars performers that we've been watching for 30 years, 40 years in some cases. At Washington State SummerCon, we got to meet Ian McDiarmid, who plays Emperor Palpatine, and Ray Park, who played Darth Maul, also featured somewhat prominently in the room here, not in small part because of his interaction with another character who's very special to us. But that experience of meeting them really kind of I think planted the seed for me, at least, of I want to do a little bit more of that. There's certain folks that are so pivotal in my Star Wars experience that it would feel really good to just meet them and have that opportunity. Maybe there's an opportunity to explore that in a future episode. What do we think?
That is a story for another time.
Meanwhile, Emerald City Comic-Con is kind of a much larger event. It's run out of the Seattle Convention Center, which they just completely rebuilt or built a new section of.
It's beautiful.
For the last 6 or 7 years, maybe. And Emerald City Comic-Con just happened. And so what we didn't want to do is wait until our May the 4th launch of the video podcast about our board games and cocktails obsession to talk about some of the really meaningful experiences we had interacting with some of our favorite Star Wars personalities. Mm-hmm. Thanks for joining me for that. That was a really special weekend.
It was wonderful.
And we probably overspent a little on everything that was there.
We went all in.
We kind of went all in on this one. And a lot of it was driven by one of our most special personalities who we're going to talk about in just a minute. So just wanted to thank you for being here. This is essentially a bonus episode. And we're using it kind of as an opportunity to warm up the gear, warm up our voices, get our process down to a T so that by the time we're out here playing games and there's a little bit more happening on the table, we have guests involved that I don't want to embarrass myself in front of as a newcomer to this medium. We thought, let's just do a little kind of short piece and talk about something cool that happened to us. So let's roll into it. So I'm going to start with the biggie. Ashley Eckstein, who plays Ahsoka Tano in Star Wars The Clone Wars, Star Wars Rebels, and now Tales of the Jedi, and then has been realized in live action as well, was at the con. And we've been waiting for her to come to Seattle for a long time. And she does a ton of travel and a ton of appearances. And we just sort of have been holding out hope that we'd get the chance to meet her, tell her how much we appreciate her work, and let her know what that means to us. So that felt really good to finally be able to do that. She was amazing. When you're waiting in line to meet celebrities, they're all a little different as far as how long that takes. Some of them, it's pretty quick process. Here's your autograph.
They shuffle
Great
you
scene.
in and out as soon as possible for a lot of these folks.
Yeah.
But not Ashley.
No.
She really takes her time with each fan and makes you feel special.
Yeah. It's amazing that she can do that with such a incredible number of people. I don't really know how she's pulling that off. So it does take a little while in the line, but no one minds because everyone knows that's the reason. She really does make you feel like $1 million after you talk to her for just a minute or two. Her whole brand and her whole message is so positive and uplifting that you just want to get behind that and support it and let her know that it's had an impact. It's definitely impacted me. I've seen it have an awesome impact in your life.
Yeah, and I was really happy to meet her and get to tell her that I felt like she is to the new generation what Mr. Rogers was to my generation.
Yeah.
Bringing light and love and acceptance and all the great positive feelings that she brings really reminds me of Mr. Rogers. And I felt like she appreciated that comment.
Yeah.
It was nice to be able to tell her that in person.
She gives you a look when you can tell that something you just said resonated a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a very specific look.
And her husband too.
Yeah. He's a super cool dude.
In fact, I'm not sure. Well, it was awesome to meet her, but what was equally as great was as we were standing in line, watching the faces of her fans after they met her coming back down with some of them with tears in their eyes and just beaming from the experience.
Yeah.
Was something I'll never forget.
Yeah. You're sort of reliving it over and over each time somebody else does it.
Yeah.
So even though there was a wait, it kind of wasn't too bad because in a way you're getting to have the experience of meeting her vicariously through each of those people who are ahead of you in line. That made it really neat.
Yeah.
Another thing that I really notice seems to be kind of central to Ashley is she makes it safe for people to be themselves, be their authentic self. That's a thing that is a hot topic at work in a lot of companies. It's showing up in media and pop culture a lot. And she has almost a movement around it now, making especially young people feel like it's okay to show up and be who you really are and not have to hide that somehow or disguise it. And there's a kind of a through line of authenticity and being true to yourself in her character's story in Star Wars that I think made a lot of people feel seen as they watched that. It all just sort of came together in that moment where we met her. So this box, should we open this box?
Yeah.
This was a limited edition version of Ahsoka's Rebels era lightsabers. So that's later in her Jedi career, later in the timeline. If I'm not mistaken, they had sold these lightsabers sort of more in the normal packaging that we're used to at Disney's Galaxy's Edge. There's a specific shop where if you haven't been there, you can buy lightsabers. They come in kind of a gray box, it's cool looking. But they did something really special here to sort of honor the Ahsoka storyline. They decorated the box with her facial markings. They gave it her color scheme, her little owl, Morai, reflected on the box. And then it plays her theme music when you open it. So this is a limited edition. There's only a certain number that they made. And I've seen other people post about getting this box signed by Ashley. And there's a little metal plate inside that has a quote from the character. And there's this little blank spot that's almost like they left a spot for Ashley to sign it. I don't know if that's the case, but that's how it looks to me. And that's what we decided to use it for. So
Should I open it?
let's do it.
Yeah.
Pretty great.
Yeah.
That's
You
like
can see she signed it
family heirloom.
right there.
So that was so special to have her, interact with us, kind of customize this a little bit with her signature. And I don't even know what to say. Like, the emotions were definitely welling up as we were waiting in line there. What do you remember about what you were feeling while we were getting ready to talk to her?
Well, there's a lot of anticipation build up, and you start to get a little emotional because you see all the other people after talking to her getting emotional. And
Yeah.
um,
It's a lot.
yeah.
There was a lot of like sensory overload, sensory stimulation in the place.
There's so many memories tied to watching that series together. I watched it later. I think I watched it after that seventh season.
I needed to see the show again because I had watched it with my boys a long time ago. Not even when it was originally on. I think we had watched it later on Netflix. Really enjoyed watching that together. And then it just sort of ends at the end of that 6th season and nothing's resolved. They didn't quite get to finish it. And then during the pandemic, it was like this little gift of getting that 7th season. And so I had watched that. And boy, did I underestimate what was coming. So I wasn't ready. I wasn't like bracing myself emotionally or getting ready for closure or any of that stuff. I just kind of casually watched it and got completely taken by surprise. And it took a while to recover from it emotionally. And then found myself questioning the order of events for certain things or having trouble remembering details of the timeline of earlier in the show. Because there's a lot of Clone Wars. It's a lot of episodes.
Yeah, and I had tried watching it a couple times, and initially I couldn't get into it, and I had friends tell me, no, you just gotta, are you watching it in the right order? And I'd be like, what do you mean the right order? You mean I just don't start with number 1 and keep going? And they're like, no.
Yeah.
It's out of order. So I had to Google that and figure out which order to watch it in. And I mean, sure, any order is going to be fine, but it made more sense to me.
Yeah, I think it made a difference.
It did make a difference. And so finally, I think the 3rd time was the charm, where we sat down during the pandemic and watched it.
Yeah.
Started watching it.
And that was a journey, significant journey to go on. So for starters, thank you for doing that with me. I wasn't going to make any assumptions about your willingness to, delve into that much content of any one thing.
I didn't know how important it was to the universe. I thought, oh, it's just a cartoon where they go on these little adventures every day. But there is so much content in there that fills in the gaps.
Yeah.
And so many references.
Yeah. I think when it starts, it is sort of tangential to the films. You are getting sort of like side stories. They're interesting, but I didn't remember in the early seasons feeling like, oh, this is essential viewing. I am absolutely missing a critical keystone portion of the Star Wars mythology if I were to skip this. But boy, somewhere along the way, they really dial it in, the storytelling and the character work, to where it is like that.
Yeah.
And it does feel like, because we actually went to the length of watching episode 1 and 2, the films, and then watching all of the Clone Wars before we watched episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. And that movie is a completely different experience after you've sat with those characters for 7 seasons. It was worth it.
It was worth
Yeah,
it.
it took time, but it was worth it.
It reinvigorated my love for the franchise. I mean, I remember watching as a kid and thinking, oh, that's cool. Yeah. And then leaving it for a while. And I had friends who were super fans and we would chat about it every now and then. But it really wasn't until I watched the Clone Wars that I started to get excited about the franchise again.
Yeah.
And the mythology and the fans. And
it gave us a nice source of discussion. There was a lot to discuss and get into as we were kind of making our way through it. So that was something I really appreciated. So thanks for going on that journey with me.
Thanks for going on that journey with me.
That was a lot of fun, and really kind of things like that really made the pandemic, I hate to say bearable, but it definitely took the edge off.
Yeah.
Having a fun thing like that to look forward to, you know, being able to delve into that discussion and really take our minds off of it for a while during the lockdown, especially. Let's talk about these. These are Ahsoka's Clone Wars era lightsabers. She's only got one lightsaber when the first time we ever see her. And that was in what was released as the Clone Wars movie. Actually came out theatrically, sort of established the characters. If you're not familiar with Ahsoka Tano, as the Clone Wars are...
Stop what you're doing right now.
Get out of here.
Get your Disney Plus subscription.
Yeah.
Or go buy the DVDs.
Yeah. Also a way to do it. I think the general gist is Anakin Skywalker is such a handful for Obi-Wan as his student that the Jedi Council, and I think specifically Yoda, make a decision of maybe a way to mellow him out is to get him a Padawan of his own. Let's maybe give him some different perspective and allow him to see what it's like when someone who is a handful is now your responsibility and you have to be the mature one. So near the beginning of the Clone Wars film, he is assigned, they're basically like, here's your new Padawan, get used to it. And she shows up and she's challenging and has a mind of her own and doesn't necessarily want to listen to anything he has to say. And he immediately starts to just get a dose of his own medicine. But she's got one lightsaber, and it's this one here. Pretty far into the show. I want to say maybe like third season, fourth season, maybe. She, I think, comes back maybe from the break in between seasons and has her second lightsaber. She's basically introduced the shorter Shoto blade and into her technique. And then that's kind of like her signature look for a while. So we've got some, our design in this room is a very sort of Ahsoka forward set of choices, but she really kind of came to represent all the things that we appreciated the most about Star Wars, I think might be a way to say it.
Yeah. So we had Ashley also sign these two lightsabers and asked her to sign one with a green pen and one with a blue pen.
Do you want to tell them why that is?
No.
So the reason why we asked her to sign in blue and green, this is an idea that I ripped off from the internet where I saw someone else had asked her to do this, and it was amazing. Ahsoka's lightsabers change color at a certain point in the story that's pretty important and meaningful. So when Disney released this set of lightsabers for you to be able to buy at Galaxy's Edge, unlike all the other lightsabers that they sell, they made these so that they could change color. So you can decide whether you want them to be green or blue, depending on what stage of Ahsoka's career you want to recreate. And I thought that was pretty great. And what would not have occurred to me in a million years, though, is that you could ask her to sign one in blue and one in green. And Ashley knows how to do an autograph.
She does.
I'll just say that. Like her signature
incredible.
is gorgeous. The experience of talking to her is amazing. But I think she also just kind of seems to have this instinct about what do people need out of that moment. And she's very generous about giving you that. So that meant a lot. Do you want to take a look at some of the pictures?
Yeah. Those ones?
Yeah, why don't we do this one first?
Okay. This was our group photo.
So that is us. My eldest is Aiden, and he's kind of right there in the center with his hands up. And then Jackson is over here on the left. He's my youngest. Boy, he was just a little guy when the Clone Wars first started. And then mixed in and amongst us, we've got Ashley towards the center here being adorable like she always is. And then right right behind right behind her is D. Bradley Baker making a ridiculous face. And if you're not familiar with these voice actors, D. Bradley Baker does the voice of literally all of the clones.
Mm-hmm.
And I've completely lost count of how many, not just how many clones there are, but how many named significant like foreground characters there are who have a meaningful part to play in the story. And he is an absolute master of making them all completely distinct from each other so you can tell them apart. And in a lot of cases, he's the only voice actor in the scene just doing the whole scene by himself.
Mm-hmm.
Could be 5 or 6 characters. Now we're watching The Bad Batch, where it's a whole squad of clones, and he's doing all of those voices, and it's incredible. Over here, I'm kind of looking through the paper. That is Matt Lanter, who does the voice of Anakin Skywalker for all of the Clone Wars. And then on the end is James Arnold Taylor, who does the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And kind of really nails the Ewan McGregor era version of the Obi-Wan voice, to the point that now I think of his voice just as much as I think of Ewan McGregor when I'm thinking about Obi-Wan Kenobi, because we spent so long watching him as that character.
Yeah.
These folks really kind of made an indelible mark. So getting... Yeah, I keep looking at D. Bradley Baker's face.
It's funny. I keep looking at my hands. You and Jackson have like the perfect Force hands, and Aiden and I are like, stop in the name of love.
We'll gently force push you, if it's okay with you.
Yeah, we're force pushing a baby in a cradle.
Force nudge.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was amazing. Seeing them all in one place was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that they seem to like to travel and do events together a lot, which is incredible, because a lot of times you're going to see celebrities in different combinations.
They look like they have fun together, and they have fun doing this.
Yeah. At the same con, literally right across the aisle from all of our Clone Wars friends, all our close personal friends now from the Clone Wars, we got to meet Katie Sackhoff, who plays Bo-Katan Kryze. She not only voiced her in the Clone Wars animated series, but now is playing her in live action in The Mandalorian. She also played Starbuck for many years on Battlestar Galactica, and that's where I first became aware of her. But she's done a lot of amazing work since then.
Mm-hmm.
It was wonderful to meet. So there was a special opportunity to pose with Katie Sackhoff, accompanied by 2 other characters from The Mandalorian. Together, collectively, they're called the Night Owls because of the design on their helmets. And one of them is Simon Cassinettes, who I watched for a long time on a show called Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. from the Marvel Universe. And Mercedes Vernado, who, if you're a WWE fan, you know by the name Sasha Banks. That was incredible to get to be there with all 3 of them at the same time. Mm-hmm. That was really special.
Yeah, they were nice.
So one of the other highlights from the weekend, as we met Katie Sackhoff, was we got her to sign this recreation of Bo-Katan's helmet, which was not even available as a product for you to do this with until just this past year. So there were a lot of those helmets floating around the Comic-Con. And
there were a lot of Mandalorians floating around the
Comic-Con.
Some
Yeah.
incredible costumes.
Yeah. The cosplay was...
Yeah. And the 501st was there
level.
too.
Yeah.
So, you're going to see some great costumes from them.
Yeah. The 501st really... They've always been great, but I feel like the new shows are giving them so much good material to work with that when we get to watch them walk around at a place like that, it's really special.
They had a whole room called the Star Wars Experience. You got to go in.
Yeah.
And they had costumes and weapons on display and props that you could pose with and take photos. It was great.
Yeah.
And they were collecting money for Mary Bridge.
Yep.
So you could donate. That was always great. They always have some great cause there.
Yeah, the 501st they've become such a big deal that when they do an event, they raise a substantial amount of money for great cause. And that room had representation from a lot of different Star Wars organizations that are all in some way kind of recreating elements of Star Wars here in the real world. So that's really fun to see them bring different artistic ability and art skills. It's really inspiring. So there was so much going on in that weekend at the Emerald City Comic-Con. They had the schedule completely packed with opportunities for awesome things.
Overlapping. So we couldn't both be at the same place at the same time.
It was too much. You couldn't cover it all.
Yeah.
So we did a little bit of a divide and conquer, and I think it was worth it. There was things I regretted not seeing, and one of them was this panel.
The panel was great.
Bridget, as it turns out, is amazing at taking notes. This is a hidden talent I'm not sure I knew you had.
I have my phone out and I'm typing away at every question and answer.
Now that I know you're really good at this, it makes me want to have you take notes at everything, because honestly, it meant a lot to me that you were willing to invest the energy to do that, because it did give me the feeling later like I had almost been there. Yeah. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Did you have any certain things that they shared that you jotted down that you would want to call out here?
There was a lot. I really liked a lot of the behind the scenes anecdotes that they talked about. But one comment that was, I thought, interesting, that one of the audience members asked, is there a relationship or a time period during the Clone Wars that you wish you had seen that didn't really get covered in the Clone Wars? And James Arnold Taylor said that he would have liked to have seen Obi-Wan Kenobi and Satine when they were younger, and how that relationship developed.
Duchess Satine.
Duchess Satine. Duchess Satine. And he mentioned that a couple times.
That's one of his best storylines from the show.
He wished he had seen more of that.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
Very interested in that relationship.
And I think a lot of fans that one holds a special place for them, because that was really memorable. That was important information about the character of Obi-Wan Kenobi that we did not get any other way that I know of.
Yeah.
I don't think I don't know that it's covered in the comics. Trying to remember a time when I even heard it mentioned. So we would have just completely missed that whole aspect of him.
Yeah. So that stuck out for me.
That's neat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for grabbing that, because it took the sting off a little bit of not being able to go to that panel, that you were able to kind of help me feel like I'd been there or something. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we've been talking a little bit about some of these characters like Ahsoka Tano. You may be wondering, like, what exactly is the tie-in with board games? And aside from the fact that we're going to use Board Game Cantina as a means to spiral off into side conversations about Star Wars, which is what we do when we hang out and play board games and have cocktails with our friends, a lot of these characters make their way into the various games that we'll end up playing on the show. Over your shoulder there, I can actually see the Clone Wars, which is based on the pandemic system. We're going to get into that one pretty shortly here. You'll see Ahsoka turn up in that one. I want to say she appears in another game called Star Wars Outer Rim. A lot of our favorite characters make little appearances in that one. So
love that one.
It's all connected. We'll get it all to sort of like click together.
Yeah. But in the meantime, we wanted to share our experience at the Emerald City Comic-Con.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody for watching this special bonus episode of Board Game Cantina. Thanks, Bridget, for being an amazing host with me. This is really fun. I'm really enjoying this. A thing that we'll hope that you'll do is subscribe to the YouTube channel. We are starting building an audience from scratch. Absolute zero. That was actually one of the fun challenges I thought would be interesting to take on with this project, is to learn when you're trying to create a new brand or a new social media presence from nothing, what does that take? Is it possible to do it and do it well and be successful? Maybe it isn't. And we'll find out together, but at least we'll be together.
Yeah. It's about having fun.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And we're going to just kind of share unapologetically about the things that we love the most. And I know we've got a lot of friends and family who love this stuff just as much as we do. So I'm looking forward to sharing that journey with you.
And hopefully some new friends along the way who are part of the Star Wars community and share that passion and that love that we do.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to it. So thanks, Bridget. Thanks to all of you. Be sure to like and subscribe. And we will see you for our big launch with our first several episodes on May The fourth. You want cheers?
I love you.
I know.